Well, hi everybody, Lisa Tamati here, and looking forward to sharing a few tips today on nutrition and perhaps a little bit about hydration for racing, and also some general nutrition tips, things that you can find on our website as well. Now, before we get started, I wanted to let you guys know there's a whole lot more material on the website, so make sure you go out and check out the videos and the articles that are on there. So one of the most common questions I do get asked all the time is, what should I eat during a long race? And that's really not just a simple question to answer because everybody is different. So I'm going to start with a few general tips. It's something that's really, really hard to do when you're doing ultras, is to eat. You know, the rest of your life you probably spend trying to not eat too much. Well, during running you're liable to not be able to eat very much because you don't actually have much of an appetite, and it's quite hard to run and breathe and eat. But it's really, really important that you do practice this. Don't just go, oh, I can't eat when I'm running, and give up, because if you do, you won't be able to do the longer distances. That's certainly fine if your goal is only to run, say, a half marathon. But even for a marathon, you really should be having some calorie intake, although you can get away with some simple stuff. But certainly for ultra distance running, for really long distance training, you want to be able to eat properly. So experiment in training, not in your racing. Whatever you're doing on race day should have already been really well programmed in, so you should really know what you're doing. No surprises. Don't take whatever the race is putting up on the table. If you haven't eaten it before or drunk it before, don't take it. Be aware if you're traveling overseas that you might not be able to get the same ingredients and the same products that you get here. So a good tip is, if you're going overseas to race, make sure you take what you're used to eating. Experiment while you're training. So try out different foods, see what works, see what doesn't work. If you get a problem after an hour or two, then you know that it's not going to be a good thing for you. Pretty much you can get away with a whole lot of things in the first hour or two. It's after that. So practicing eating in your 40-minute weekly, day-night runs or whatever during the week isn't really testing it. It's when you're doing the long stuff in the weekend perhaps, or you're out all day tramping or cycling or whatever you're doing. Those are the times that you really want to be trialing out your gear, your nutrition, your hydration regime, okay? So when you're looking at something that's longer than, say, 50 kilometers, 100 kilometers, 100-mile races, multi-day stage races, food is an energy input is probably the most, or second most important thing that you can do. The first most important thing is your mindset. You have to have your head in a good space to be able to run those sort of distances, and you have to visualize, you have to change your mind. And the second most important thing is to really get your food intake and your hydration intake right. So don't underestimate it and think it's all about just collecting kilometers. As you'll know, being on Running Hot Coaching, we're not just about collecting kilometers, we're actually about the whole program. Nutrition, mobility, strength, running training, high intensity and low intensity training, and mixing it all up to get the right sort of mix for you. So if you're doing that really long stuff, just remember that food is absolutely crucial. You can't, we had one of our guys, Carlos, just did an Ironman last week, and he started to run into trouble in the marathon. He did pretty well up until then. Ate things that weren't what he was used to because he couldn't get the products over there. Guzzled a little bit too much water coming off the bike and into the run, and sat like a rock in his stomach, and that's a very, very common problem, and if you've spent 6 months training for something, it's a real bugger when that happens to you, and you can't perform to your optimum even if you do reach the finish line. As a general rule, you should be consuming, for long distance stuff, 200 to 300 calories an hour. Of course, we're burning far more than that, but you don't need to eat that much. Part of your calories that you're burning will come from your glycogen stores. So you have about 2 to 2.5 hours worth of glycogen stored in your muscles and your liver, okay? So you've got that in reserve, so that's why the 200 or 300 calories. Also, your body can convert a certain amount of fat and, unfortunately, a certain amount of muscle fiber for energy. When your body, because we all know we've got enough fat in our bodies, doesn't matter how skinny we are, to run around the planet. Actually, we've got so many calories in there that if we could tap into that at will, we'd be fine. We wouldn't need to eat at all. However, we don't, so we're not able to grab those calories as efficiently. Note this, the glycogen stores into the food that you're eating takes about 8 metabolic processes to turn into glycogen, into energy. To pull fat from your fat reserves takes about 20 metabolic processes to get it. So it's a lot harder for the body to transfer that into energy. It also makes you feel sluggish because of that. It's taking so much more energy. So if you've ever experienced hitting the wall where you've just like someone's pulled the plug on you, you'll know that it's really, you feel like weak, you feel like vomiting sometimes, you'll feel like you just can't go on, and that's called hitting the wall. And what happens there is that your glycogen stores have run out, your sugar has bottomed out, and the body's trying to convert fat for energy, but it's having a bit of a struggle, and therefore you feel really sluggish. So a combination of food coming in and a little bit of fat being transferred over into fat burning for energy is your ideal state. Now, women tend to burn fat better for energy than men, and typically it sort of starts to cut in at the 3 to 4 hour period, and for guys it takes a bit longer for the body to get into fat burning mode, which is just another interesting fact for you. The body will also sometimes grab to muscles, to break down muscles for energy, and this is something that we don't really want to be happening. There are some very serious complications that can come from this. One is called rhabdomyolysis, and I've had this before, and this is where your muscles are being injured and broken down, and you're actually killing the muscle fibers, and they're being released into the bloodstream. And what happens is that your kidneys can't take the load of this, of the waste products from these muscles coming through, and you can have renal failure of varying degrees. And it's a serious side problem that can often happen with ultramarathon runners. You also don't want to be burning your muscle, because you take all year to try and build a strong, healthy body, and you don't want to be taking the muscle away from your body. So getting your nutrition right in your training and in your racing is really, really important. See, we burn about 500 to 700 calories an hour depending on what we're doing. But like I said, 200 to 300 calories is all you can aim for realistically during an ultra. What's next on the list? The body's... one of my mottos is to sip, 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 nibble, nibble, nibble. And if you can just remember that motto, you do well in ultras. So by constantly sipping literal amounts, don't guzzle a whole half litre at once as you come, especially like you come into an aid station and you're down a thing and shoot off. That can sit like a rock in your stomach. Now, ideally, your stomach should remain sort of in a half full state for most of the time. So you don't want it to be emptying completely, because then it just like shrivels up like this, and when you put something in it, it just goes bleh. And you don't want it to be over full and sloshing around, okay? So half full is about ideal, and then you're just dripping it in, and hopefully it's dripping on out into the digestive system and doing what it should be doing and hydrating your body. Another problem that's coming up more and more in races around the world is hypernatremia. This is where people are drinking too much water, because we're getting the message always shoved down our throat, we've got to drink, we've got to drink, we've got to drink. We sure do. However, remember that you have to balance your electrolytes with your water intake. So hypernatremia is drinking too much water with not enough electrolytes, and the body's getting diluted in its electrolytes, and this can lead to complications like fluid retention and weakness and all those other symptoms that you get with dehydration. So be careful. Sometimes you think you're dehydrated, you might be actually overhydrated. You don't need to stop drinking so much, but you need to get the electrolytes and pushed up. Now, on that note of electrolytes, I use a product that I take daily, especially if I'm training hard or if I'm just feeling a little bit dehydrated. It's a really good product to have all the time, and it's called Elite, E-L-E-T-E. There are also other products on the market with similar results, and these are just drops that I put in my water every day, and it helps me hydrate my body. So it's got your potassium, your calcium, your magnesium, your sodiums, and all of those things help body retain the water where you need it. Now, people think, I've been told I'm dehydrated, I'll drink 2 litres of water today and I'll be rehydrated. It doesn't work like that. Hydration on a cellular level takes months and even years to rebuild up. A typical dehydrated person, you can see it straight away, is people that drink too much alcohol. They get that real dried out look. That's partly a dehydration issue. Because of the body's like beef jerky. It's basically not getting the water because the alcohol is a diuretic and it's making you put out water, but it's not retaining it, and you don't have enough electrolytes to keep it in there. So I would highly recommend that you take electrolyte drops or electrolyte tablets if you're training hard throughout the week, and just to keep yourself in balance. The drops are just fine, a little bit cheaper overall than buying the tablets. When I'm racing, I use Hypernatremia tablets, and no, I'm not even sponsored by them, but I really like their products. I also take BCAAs, which are branched chain amino acids, which are the building blocks of protein. So after you've been training, if you can take BCAAs, once again, these are all pretty expensive, but I'm just giving you the optimal. It's like having a steak without having to eat the steak, if you like. It's giving your body all the building blocks of protein to help recovery. During a race, it's helping getting rid of the lactic acid buildup. It's helping to stop you breaking your muscles down and that sort of thing. So those are what I use for that. So 3 products there: Elite, Hypernatremia electrolytes, Endurolytes they're called, and BCAAs. Now, they can be from any company that you like.